I haven't told anyone about this yet because it's the kind of thing that makes people look at you differently, like I'm losing it. Or worse, like I've already lost it. But I have to get it out somewhere before it eats me alive. It started a few months ago, right after we moved into this old house my parents bought. It was out in the countryside, isolated, surrounded by thick woods. It was a bargain, supposedly because the land wasn't worth much. I didn't care. I was just stoked to have my own room, finally some space to myself. But right after the first night, things started getting weird. I started dreaming about her. At first it was just glimpses of pale face, stringy dark hair, hollow eyes. She would be standing far off in the trees, just watching me. No movement, no sound, just watching. I could never make out the details, but the feeling of her gaze stuck with me. There was something off about her, something that felt wrong. The worst part was that I wasn't even scared, just uncomfortable, like she was studying me, waiting. The dreams kept coming though, each one more intense than the last. Eventually they weren't just dreams anymore. It felt real, like I was walking through the woods outside our house, the same woods I'd explore during the day. Only at night they seemed different, darker, more twisted. And she was always there, closer now, her eyes locked onto mine, her lips moving, but I couldn't hear what she was saying. And then, I'd wake up. But the dream wouldn't leave me. When I woke up one morning, there was mud under my fingernails. Another time, twigs were tangled in my sheets, and I swore I smelled damp earth in my room. I told myself I was imagining it. Stress from the move, maybe. But then I started finding things that shouldn't be there. One night, in the dream, I followed her. She was walking slowly, her bare feet sinking into the soft, wet ground, leaving bloody footprints behind. I was too afraid to stop. She led me to a clearing, right in the middle of the woods, where the ground was black, charred like something had burned there long ago. In the center, there was a stone altar. She pointed to it, her finger trembling like she was struggling to hold it up. And then I woke up. There was dirt on my feet. I didn't even remember leaving my bed. I just sat there, heart racing, staring at the mess around me. And then I saw it. A ring. A small, delicate silver ring sitting right on the edge of my nightstand. It was old, tarnished, but I knew it hadn't been there before. I didn't wear jewelry, and neither did anyone else in my family. I picked it up, and the moment I touched it, I felt a chill run down my spine. It was ice cold, even though it had been in my room all night. That's when I started doing some research about the area. I had to know where that clearing was, or if it was even real. I found some old records, local legends about the land our house was built on. Turns out it used to belong to a small, isolated village long gone now, but their history was dark, ritualistic. They practiced human sacrifices, always young women, always at night, always in that clearing. The legends say their spirits were bound to the land, cursed to wander until someone helped them find peace. I didn't want to believe it, but the dreams kept getting worse, more vivid. She wasn't just leading me to the clearing anymore, she was showing me what happened. I saw her being dragged, kicking and screaming, her eyes wide with terror as they tied her down to that stone altar. There were men around her, faces hidden in the shadows, chanting something I couldn't understand. And then they cut her throat. I can still hear the gurgling, the way the blood sprayed across the stone. And I could feel her pain, her fear. It was unbearable. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, but this time I didn't wake up alone. The ring was back on my nightstand, but now there was more. Scratched into the wood right beneath the ring was a single word. Help. I knew I couldn't keep ignoring it. I had to go to the clearing, see if it was real, see if there was anything I could do to stop this. I didn't tell my parents. I just said I was going for a walk, grabbed a flashlight, and headed into the woods. It didn't take long to find the spot from my dream. The trees parted, just like they had in the nightmare, revealing the blackened, scorched earth. And in the center, just like before, was the stone altar. But this time it wasn't empty. There was a girl standing there, the same girl from my dreams, her eyes hollow and black, staring at me. She didn't speak, but I could feel her pulling me closer, like she was begging for something. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I stepped forward, almost like I didn't have control of my body anymore. I reached the altar, and that's when I saw it. A small silver ring, identical to the one on my nightstand, lying in the center of the stone. I didn't want to touch it, but my hand moved on its own. The moment my fingers brushed against the cold metal, a voice whispered in my ear. Her voice, "You have to finish it." I don't know what I was thinking, but I did what she asked. I took the ring and buried it in the ground at the base of the altar. The moment the dirt covered it, the air around me shifted. The oppressive weight that had been hanging over me lifted, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. But when I turned to leave, she was gone. Not just from the clearing from my dreams, too. That night I slept without waking up in a cold sweat, without finding anything out of place in my room. I thought it was over. Until this morning. I woke up and found another ring on my nightstand. But this one wasn't tarnished or old. It was fresh, like it had just been placed there. And beneath it, scratched into the wood in shaky letters, was a new word. Hurry. Now I'm terrified to go back to sleep. I didn't sleep that night. Hell, I barely even blinked. I just sat there staring at the ring on my nightstand. Fresh, shiny, almost new. I had buried the other one, so where the hell did this one come from? And the word. Hurry. Why the hell would I need to hurry? I thought it was over. I thought I had done what she wanted, but clearly I was wrong. The day passed in a blur. I couldn't concentrate on anything. My parents tried to talk to me, asked if I was okay, but I just brushed them off. I couldn't tell them the truth. What was I supposed to say? Hey Mom, Dad, so I've been having these dreams about a dead girl, and she's leaving me cryptic messages on my nightstand. Cool, right. I waited until nightfall. There was no way around it. I had to go back to the clearing. I had to know what was happening. When the house was quiet and my parents were asleep, I slipped out of bed, grabbed my flashlight, and headed into the woods. It was different this time. The trees seemed closer together, almost like they were leaning in, watching me. The air was thick, humid, and there was this smell damp, earthy, like the ground had just been overturned. The closer I got to the clearing, the worse it became, until it was so strong I could taste it in the back of my throat. When I reached the clearing, I almost turned back. The altar was covered in blood, fresh blood. It dripped down the sides, pooling on the ground, soaking into the earth. And standing in front of it, her back to me, was the girl. But she wasn't alone. There were shadows around her, tall, thin figures with eyes that glowed like embers. They were circling her, chanting in that same twisted, guttural language I had heard in my dreams. I took a step back, my heart hammering in my chest, but before I could move, she turned around. Her eyes, those black, hollow eyes, locked onto mine. But this time she wasn't silent. Her mouth opened, and the words that came out chilled me to the bone. It's too late. The shadows closed in on her, their hands reaching out, grasping, pulling her towards the altar. She struggled, but it was useless. They pinned her down, just like they had in my dream. Her screams tore through the air, raw, desperate. I wanted to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. I couldn't move, couldn't tear my eyes away. And then one of the figures turned its head towards me. Its face, or what was left of it, was twisted, deformed, barely human. And it spoke, its voice a low, rumbling growl that made my skin crawl. You're next. I don't remember how I got home. I just know that I did. The next thing I knew, I was back in my room, shaking, my clothes soaked with sweat, mud on my shoes. I locked the door and crawled into bed, pulling the blankets over my head like a child hiding from monsters. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. The dreams came back that night, worse than ever. I wasn't just watching anymore, I was living it. I was in the clearing, tied to the altar, the shadows closing in around me. I could feel their cold, bony hands on my skin, their breath on my neck. And then, just as the knife descended, I'd wake up, gasping for air, my heart pounding in my chest. But the worst part wasn't the dreams. It was the things I started finding when I woke up. At first, it was small stuffed scratches on my arms, dirt on my clothes. But then it escalated. One morning, I woke up with blood under my fingernails. Another time, I found a lock of hair, her hair tangled in my sheets. And then, last week, I woke up with a handprint on my neck. A bruise, dark and ugly, like someone had tried to strangle me in my sleep. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm barely holding it together. I haven't slept in days, and when I do, it's only for a few minutes at a time, just long enough for the nightmares to start. I've tried locking my door, but it doesn't help. I wake up in different places, sometimes in the woods, sometimes in the hallway, once even standing in front of the altar. I tried talking to my parents about it. They think I'm going through some stress phase or whatever. They don't believe me. How could they? I barely believe myself. But I know this is real. I can feel it. There's something in this house, something ancient, something evil, and it wants me. The last time I went back to the clearing, I found something new. Another ring, this one larger, heavier, with strange markings etched into the surface. I don't know what they mean, but when I touched it, I felt a jolt of pain shoot through my hand, like I had grabbed onto a live wire. I dropped it and ran, but I know I'll have to go back. I don't have a choice. I'm scared. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. The dreams are getting worse, more violent. The shadows are getting closer. I can feel them even when I'm awake. They're watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. I don't know how this ends, but I have a feeling it's not going to be good. If anyone finds this, if anyone reads this, stay away from this house. Stay away from the woods. Stay away from me. Because once you're marked, there's no escaping it. And I think my time is running out.